ain't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's your boy Ernie, the Blerd Without Fear. Welcome back to the channel. And welcome back to another round of the best comics this week, the show where I give you 5 of the best comics I read each and every week and give you a brief overview about them, get you hip to stuff that's going on in the industry, as well as putting you up to speed on indie comics and trades you should be checking out, as well as new comics coming out that you should add to your pull list. Without further ado, let's get right into it. First and foremost is going to be Hellfire Vigil #1. This was a comic I honestly did not expect to give too much of a crap about. I'm not going to lie to you. This was one of those that I saw it on the docket. I was going to read it. I knew I was, but like there was no excitement. But I will admit, I actually really enjoyed this issue a lot. It was an awesome love letter to what ultimately was the Krakoan era, while also not really shitting on it, which is kind of what a lot of the From the Ashes era of X-Men has felt like. It's felt like a lot of, hey, we're just going to dunk all over the Krakoan era because we know y'all really like the Krakoan era. That's what a lot of it felt like. This didn't. This actually felt way more respectful. It felt like the memorial for Krakoa that it should have been. And also is a nice, I won't say wrap up, because this actually creates more questions than answers for some of the books that we have been following. But the books that got canceled along the way, or books just that ended of their own volition, regardless of whichever ones those were, some of those actually got some really nice opportunities to wrap up some story threads and you actually, have some level of closure, even if there was actually no closure to be had. And it also opens up some new questions and sets the table for a lot of things that are going to be going on with the X-Men, at least in regards to 3K and certain mutants like Dazzler and Storm and so on and so forth. So a lot of really good stuff. I'm not going to do a whole lot of deep diving into this one because I have a separate video coming out for that. But yeah, I'll just say Hellfire Vigil #1, it was a damn good read. Next up is going to be Bitter Root, The Next Movement #4. This one was a really nice, tight issue that deals with the dynamics of the Sangrier family. That's something that I know some people have gotten confused by, is the lineage of the Sangrier family and how it works. And this issue does a really good job of illustrating to you why their relationship is so complex, and why, even though there are people who technically have the names, or last name rather, Sangrier, they don't always wind up being actual blood relation. And it is because some people have been married into the family, other people have just been adopted into the family. But what they do with this is show you how, regardless of all that, that doesn't make anyone in the family any less, because their last name is Sangrier or not. Anyone who is welcome within the family is family, and it's just as simple as that. Doesn't matter if you were born into it or married into it or stumbled into it. But it also focuses on the rift that started within the Sangrier family that has kind of led to characters like Dr. Sylvester to maybe have diverged a little bit from the family at large, and also why certain characters may have ideas about what to do about the Genu than maybe some other people might have. It also showcases just how far the government conspiracy goes in how they deal with the Genu, whether or not they actually try to take care of the problem, or if they're just putting a band-aid on it, or if their plan is total eradication of anyone who doesn't fit into the nice, neat little box of white supremacy. Like I said, there's a lot of really good stuff to dive into here. Like, honestly, I would probably say the real surprise is going to be that there's something going on with Agent York. And it's not going to be the thing that you're thinking about. Like, there are some hints and teases at it now that I've kind of read this issue and gone back and looked at previous ones. I'm like, oh yeah, there is actually a little teensy weensy bit of I guess foreshadowing that the thing that happens this issue is going to happen. But yeah, Agent York has tons of surprises for us. And I also think that when you really kind of dig down into the deep end of it, I think the next movement is really setting up the Sangrees for what I think could be a really huge showdown with the United States government if things are allowed to progress, which I think they will. But I feel like that's kind of what we're angling towards. Like, we've been jumping forward in time, with this series, where I think when this initially started, we were in the 1920s, and now you look to where we are, we're in the 1960s. And I think, depending on where they want to go with it, with this, particular arc, because this will be, or rather, the next issue will be the conclusion of this first story arc. So my next question is going to be, man, where is this going to land? Like, are we going to keep jumping forward in time? Or are we going to do like we did with the previous 15 some odd issue run and just stick within the 60s and 70s for a while? And I don't know, I would love to see the series just continue going on and on and on and on and on. What would Bitterroot look like in the 90s? What would it look like in the aughts, or like even right now? These are the kind of things that I feel like Bitterroot often promises us, it gets us thinking about, which also makes this a really fun series. But yeah, and I also want to say too, I appreciate that we get to see a little bit more out of Cotton and Sandra this issue. Those characters we get to spend a little bit more time with, maybe than what I would have liked over the past few issues. But yeah, we're getting a lot of really good character development, seeing maybe where Dr. Sylvester and Blink started not being able to see eye to eye. Yeah, this is great. It's fantastic. And yeah, please, if you're not reading Bitterroot, you should be. Honestly, I originally had a different segment here. I was actually going to talk about Jim Shooter, but I decided that maybe I might save that for something else. But what I did want to talk about, and I'm going to keep this brief, because I know sometimes the shit segment portion of the show usually runs a little bit longer than some other portions, because I like to rant. But this is not going to be shit. This is going to be king shit, because your boy just got his first quote. That's right, I got my first quote. And it was on the cover, not the most recent issue of Feral, that will be issue number 14, but it was actually on the cover of issue 13. But I didn't learn about it because I had not yet picked up my copy of Feral yet, which made me a little sad. But when I actually figured out what was going on, when I did pick up my books, I actually thought it was kind of funny. Because what ended up happening is, long story short, my local comic shop does not carry Feral, so I have to pick it up through alternative means. Typically, I usually get them from Midtown Comics, which I just order online, because I'm usually buying shit on there anyway. Well, someone who apparently saw the comic, saw the name on the order, and when they put the comic in the bag, they put it in backwards, but for good reason. It's because of this. Yes, that's right, that's me. This is my quote on the back of Feral number 13. This is, they're quoting your boy here. This is my quote. Actually, I forget exactly when I said this, but I say this a lot, so it could be from anywhere. Basically, it read, "Imagine a zombie apocalypse from a cat's perspective. Pretty wild stuff. Highly recommend." Like I said, this is my first, this is my first quote. This is the first time I think I've ever been quoted for anything. But I do highly recommend, if you've never done so, read Feral. It's awesome. I talked about its sister series, Stray Dogs, before, which I also highly recommend. Everything I said on the back of that box is exactly what is up with this book. It is a zombie apocalypse from a cat's perspective, because rabies. Anyway, shout out to the creative team of Feral, Tony Fleeks, and Trish Forstner. Everybody at Image Comics for hooking your boy up with a back of the box quote. That's king shit. Getting back to the comic side of it, let's talk about Absolute Green Lantern number 4. This issue is setting up something really nice, and you don't get to see it play out this issue, but you definitely know that it's on the way. And it's that while Hal Jordan has been possessed by the Black Hand, or at least the Absolute, DC Comics version of it, what also happens is we get to tease there's something else going on with him. That there's more spectrums to what he's dealing with than just the Black Lantern spectrum. He's also dealing with the Dark Stars. And at first, when I was reading the page, I was like, oh, the text, everything's turning from black to red. Are we setting up the absolute version of the Red Lantern Corps? And no, it is very plainly stated that the Dark Stars are on their way in some capacity or another, and Hal Jordan will likely be the one who is leading the charge. But aside from all that, I also really enjoy that we learned some really interesting things about Abin Sur. Some things I had actually already posited a couple of issues ago, I believe, in regards to Absolute Green Lantern. Really, actually, I want to say the past, couple. But basically, we are learning a little bit more about what Abin Sur was actually there to do. What is it that he wanted? Why did he come to Earth? Why was he just mysteriously disintegrating people left and right? Every single person he saw, damn near, he was taking them out one by one by one by one. We saw Guy Gardner catch it just a couple of issues prior. And in the previous issue, we saw John Stewart be judged and found wanting. But the thing is, and I said this before, not everything is as it seems. There is more to the equation here. What is Abin Sur doing with these people, and why is he seemingly, quotey fingers, killing them? What is actually going on there? What is all of this in aid of? And we get an answer to it in this issue. And I don't think it's going to be an answer that will surprise many people. I'm not really going to dive too deep into it or really at all. But yeah, if you want to know what the hell is going on, why were all these people in Evergreen just getting mysteriously sent to the Shadow Realm, you're going to get an answer to it this issue. And I think the answer is pretty clear. Now, as far as what's going on with Joe, I feel like there is going to be a lot for Joe to have to answer for going into the next issue, because something really catastrophic happens by the time we get to the pages at the end of this book. And we also get the introduction of a villain from Green Lantern's past that is making their way into the Absolute Universe, and not just one, but technically two, depending on whether or not you will count the time she spent as a villain, or rather you want to focus more on the time that she's been a hero. Next up on the list is going to be Captain America #1. This one is a book that I was already excited for. I knew going into it I was probably going to enjoy this, but I didn't really fully understand why. Like, I knew it's Chip Zdarsky. I love Chip Zdarsky. Most of the time. I don't know, that Batman kind of left me a little cold. And it started off great and then just went from sugar to shit. I will definitely say that going into this book, I was really excited because, coming, fresh off of his, Avengers Twilight, I really enjoyed that story. So I wanted to see what more could Chip do with a Captain America story. Now, I didn't really keep up with a lot of the solicits for this book. So when I walked into this story, I was completely surprised when I opened it up and found out that this book is not set in the present day. It's set in the past. And as a matter of fact, to give you an exact idea of when it takes place, Captain America has not long been brought out of the ice. As a matter of fact, he hasn't even joined the Avengers yet. That's how long ago and when this story takes place. But what it's also doing is it's recontextualizing how we look at Captain America's history. And I think that's probably going to work for some people. It's probably not going to work for everyone, but I think it's definitely going to work for those that read it and enjoy it. But yeah, they're taking Captain America's history, recontextualizing it, and I don't know, I won't lie, it is muddying the waters a little bit on the history of super soldiers in the Marvel Comics universe. However, I'm willing to let it play as long as it keeps being this good, because as we follow it, we're getting to see a more wide-eyed and open-eyed Captain America, a guy who hasn't quite fully been, disenfranchised with the state of where his country is right now. He's still hopeful in the American dream, and not to say that Captain America today isn't, but it's just that we know by now Captain America has seen a lot of stuff that would let him know that the American dream is not as attainable as he once thought it was, or at least as attainable as it should be. Now, while I said it takes place in the past, it doesn't actually take place that far back in the past. what they're doing with this is that they're taking Marvel's sliding time scale and moving it forward a little bit. Where originally Captain America was frozen in ice during World War II and got out of the ice about roughly 20 years later, well, that's no longer the case. It's actually been moved ahead. In this retcon of Captain America's history, it's revealed he actually wasn't thawed out until after 9/11. So I think this is one of those things that you're either going to go with this shit or you are not. It just kind of is what it is at this point. It's a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a lot. And it's going to be a lot of people's barrier for entry, but I really enjoyed it. And I also enjoyed the introduction of new character David Colton, who I think is an interesting character. We get to kind of see what is effectively an almost kind of mirroring of Captain America's origin, but through a different character. There's a lot of questions here, I'll be honest with you. But once again, I think everything is gonna ultimately be how far are you willing to go with the bending of comics history as you know it. And I think if you're more open-minded, I think you're gonna find a lot to like, especially when you find out that, where Captain America, because of his thawing out during, or rather after 9/11, what that means for him as far as what wars he ends up participating in following that. And I think there's a really cool story you could tell about a Captain America who was fresh out of the ice around the time of the Iraq War. A war that has aged like milk. From a political standpoint. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And once again, I think a lot of other people will too. Next up is going to be my Tradespotting segment brought to you by Global Comics. The book I'm putting on the docket is none other than Hack Slash. This is a story that is near and dear to my heart because it focuses on some of the things I really enjoy. It's a comic book about a young girl by the name of Cassie Hack, who out of nowhere discovers that she has a knack for killing horror movie monsters. Not only does she have a knack for killing horror movie monsters, but also she has a knack for palling around with a guy who is, for all intents and purposes, Jason Voorhees, a guy by the name of Vlad. And they together travel across the country and hunt down horror movie monsters, slashers, if you will. And there's tons of homages to some of my favorite horror movies, horror movie tropes. There's even instances of some of my favorite comic creators who happen to show up as actual characters in these stories. There's tons of crossovers with characters like Chucky and Evil Ernie, and at one point there was even an Ash and the Evil Dead crossover, somewhere not included in this, but just saying, as a whole. This is a comic that's awesome. It's fun. It's great. I highly recommend it. If you have not checked it out, go on globalcomics.com, use the QR code over here, or hit the link in the description. And if you don't already have a subscription to Global Comics, you can get 33% off your first 1-year subscription and read the whole store. That's over 96,000 comics that you have access to. Comics ranging from DC Comics, Boom Studios, Image, Dynamite, IDW, Dark Horse, you name it, it's all on there. I think everything with the exception of Marvel. But yeah, go check it out. Hack Slash it's great. Last and most certainly not least is going to be Illuminati #1. I was initially skeptical of this comic because I saw Charlemagne the God presents Illuminati. I almost did not read it on principle because I really do not care for Charlemagne the God. He is a wishy-washy Negro, and I just didn't know what to do with that information. I was just like, man, I'm conflicted. But I saw Brian Edward Hill and Dennis Cowan and Bill Sienkiewicz and Marco Lesko and Ann World. I was like, okay, all right. I'll check out the damn book. So I checked it out, and I was actually pleased to learn that it was pretty damn good. This is a story about twin sisters, Lily and Jackie, and more specifically Lily, because when we kick this story off, Lily is recently learned that her twin sister Jackie has died. And died is doing some heavy lifting here, because the truth of the matter is, she didn't die. She was murdered. And this is a story about how Lily tries to find out what happened to her sister, a woman who was just as talented as she is when it comes to music, but was the only one between the two of them who ran off to Hollywood to try and make it as a star in the music industry. And we, over the course of this issue, kind of discover that things aren't always as they seem. This is a book that is very much grounded in reality, but as Lily is digging deeper into the mystery of what happened to her twin sister, she discovers that things are a little bit more supernatural than maybe she might have initially thought, or had even possibly considered. And it's great. It's fantastic. We get to watch as Lily is investigating what's going on, following leads, talking to people who knew her sister, and even to a lesser extent kind of being the Agent Scully of it all at first, and then eventually becoming an Agent Mulder by the time she gets to the end of things. But yes, this is going to be one of those stories that I feel, especially because it's Brian Edward Hill writing this. This isn't written by Charlemagne the God. I just want to make this clear. At least that's not what I took away from this. It feels like he's not credited for writing any of this. It's just that, yeah, it's a thing that he kind of spearheaded, like produced or whatever. This story is largely Brian Edward Hill. So I think that, yeah, this story is going to go some pretty wild, wacky places, which I'm perfectly fine with. I think that's actually going to work out to this book's benefit. But yes, I can't wait to see more of what's going on here and learn about the shady-ass characters that Jackie used to hang out with, that now Lily is having to try and figure out whether she can trust these people or if she needs to avoid them like the plague. I don't really have anything on the pull box report today, I'm sad to say, not for lack of desire, but more because I feel like I've kind of talked about quite a few things that you should be adding to your pull box. But I will just say this, because so many people were surprised by the release of the VR Troopers comic, I'll just say, yeah, you should probably go ask for VR Troopers to be added to your pull box. And I'm also gonna put it out here too, just another reminder. I know I talked about this last week, but I actually just, was it just a couple of days ago, actually, talked to the writers of Godzilla Escape the Dead Zone, so I'm gonna say it yet again. There's still time. Technically, FOC is already passed, I think, by the time you guys are gonna see this, but you can still ask for it to be added to your pull box. They'll get it to you one way or the other. But yeah, I'm really excited for Escape the Dead Zone. I got to read it in its entirety, or at least the first issue in its entirety. And yeah, it's fantastic. So those are just going to be, yeah, once again, just kind of more friendly reminders than it is anything else. Actually, you know what? Correction. There is one more thing. I just remembered. There is a comic coming out, I believe, next week called The Unchosen. It is, to my understanding, written and drawn by Uncanny X-Men artist David Marquez. It looks beautiful. I'm in. I'm 100% sold. And basically, this is a story that I'm reading this because I'm literally just kind of learning about this book. But basically, this is going to be a story about a 13-year-old Ida who wakes in a city laid to waste by a massive explosion, a scene of devastation that she caused, and she is pursued by rival forces wielding incredible powers. She must discover who truly wants to help her and who wants to control her, and the truth behind her own mysterious past. This book looks awesome, and it should be in your pull list. It looks beautiful. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, you need to check that out. Anyway, that is the best comics this week. Thank you all so much for tuning in for this. And I do have a little bit of announcement regarding this series. I'm not going to be pouring a whole heap of a lot of energy into trying to get these out really fast, because I feel like the videos that I just kind of slap together are usually the ones that just do better. Weird how that works out. I noticed that I literally had poured all my time, energy, and effort into last week's best comics this week, and nobody watched it. Not saying nobody watched it, but just not very many people watched it. I slapped together a video about Powerlift in Miles Morales Spider-Man, and that video just blew the fuck up. So yeah, I'm kind of in a weird place with this. I want to keep doing this, but if it's one of those things that, the viewership is literally telling me what they think. So I would be stupid to try to change that. It just is what it is. But like I said, it's not to say that I'm gonna stop doing them, but I'm not gonna bend over backwards to try and get them out literally every Thursday, because it's a lot of effort to do these, to have hardly anybody watch them. Maybe I'll change how I do best comics this week. Maybe that's what we'll do. I don't know. There's a conversation there to be had. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. And you know what? I'm willing to accept that. Maybe it's me. Maybe I could find a way to do best comics this week in a way that is less work. We'll see what happens. But anyway, yeah, hit the subscribe button, tap the notification bell if you haven't done so already, because I promise you that's part of the reason why you're not seeing all my videos. I post lots of videos, and YouTube does not like to show you them. So if you are subscribed and you do not have the bell ticked, and when I say bell ticked, I don't mean, oh, show me some notifications. You have to do all of them, all notifications. That's how we do this. That's how this works. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you for the next Best Comics this week.